Bonnie.
Hi.
Welcome to the What. Actually, we've changed the name of the podcast.
Oh,
It is now called What Not Why. So,
fantastic.
and that's the first time I say it in a podcast. So, you are part of a first today,
Yay.
and and super happy to welcome you to the podcast. I have to say, we're welcoming you back because the first time we took this did not work. So it's take two. And I think that brings us a bit of good luck. That's what I'm going to believe anyway. So why don't you let our audience know who you are, and then we will get started.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so my name is Bonnie Mickle, and I know you through having gone through your program at Coach Academy. And I was a teacher. I am a teacher and have been for about 20 years, an elementary teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And really loved it. And in 2018, my husband was diagnosed with metastatic melanoma, and our kids were still very young. They were, almost 4 and almost 6 at the time. And so that's why I stopped teaching back then, because with treatments and surgeries, there's just no time to blink.
Mm.
So, yeah, we went through all of that. And then in 2020, in May 2020, he passed away. At the same time, it was really the beginning of the COVID pandemic. And
Yeah.
so the option of going back to work did not look so good. 2 young kids at home and me a new widow. Yeah. So I ended up staying home for quite a while. And let's see, right now we're 2025.
Mm. Time flies.
Time flies, time flies. Kids are much older.
Mm.
And I was trying to figure out what to do with my time. I was missing having that purpose, the purpose that teaching gives me, helping people, seeing people light up. And so I thought, okay, something good has to come from everything that I had just gone through with my husband. Maybe that will give me some purpose. And so I started a business called Onwards by Design, in which I really wanted to help young widows like myself, young widows with young kids, figure it out. There wasn't a lot of support out there for me at the time. And I thought, what better way to give back and feel like, okay, maybe this wasn't all for nothing. When I started that business, I discovered that, oh my goodness, I am taking it all on, the weight of these widows and their devastation and all of their troubles, and I wanted to help them fix it all.
Mm.
My coach at the time had very gently over time sort of planted the seed, but not really plant the seed. She came along with me for the ride, and eventually I figured out, oh, maybe I need to take a coaching program, because I was just taking it all on, all the weight, the devastation, again, the sadness from these widows and their families. So I found your program and realized I was doing a lot of, maybe we call it mentoring or being a friend, definitely not a psychologist, and maybe taking on that teaching role in a way that was just and with a different clientele. And I also realized through taking the program and becoming a coach that I was feeling more of a sense of obligation in helping widows instead of it really lighting me up and being my true passion.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
I also discovered that education still lights me up.
Mm.
And I really wanted to find a way of merging education and coaching. So I reframed my business. It's still onwards by design because I still think it holds true, and that's where I am now. I'm going to be going into the classroom and also saving time for hopefully coaching other educators and other leaders in the field.
Nice. Wow. Well, of course, your story is heroic. I think if having to face the loss of your husband during just an incredibly isolating time with COVID. So, yeah, I just want to acknowledge that it must have been a very, very difficult time. And we just started the grief course yesterday in our community, and it's always so interesting how people hold grief and how it's so different for each person, right? The
Mhm.
individual. So it's never a journey that I don't think people we can relate, but we can't know what that's like for you. In fact, one of the comments in the course yesterday was, "No one can hold my grief, and I can't give it to anyone."
Mm,
Right?
yeah.
So it's this very personal thing that you can't pass off, and nobody can really you know, um, step in for you in grieving. So, anyway, just to say that must have been very difficult. And I also hear your passion and your purpose. And I love that you've gone and veered toward educators, although I feel like, there's also that community that needs support. I mean, you have this lived experience. So certainly there's an opportunity there. What did coaching teach you that you want to share around this empowering the coachee and not actually holding all of that?
Mm, my goodness. Well, I'm sure I have a sticky note somewhere around my monitor here that has exactly the answer that's on the tip of my tongue, and it probably has to be that trust in the coachee.
Mm,
They know the answer, and they know what they need. They might just not. Maybe there are some things blocking them, or maybe they're making assumptions about things, and hence the coach's job in that situation might be to ask the questions. What assumptions are you making? So that the person can untangle the their rationale, maybe. Um, I think that was the biggest thing. That and listening,
mm,
being the listener.
yeah. And when you think about the skills of a coach, what do you notice is the opportunity in education?
Oh, the big one. Everything. Oh my goodness. If we could just train every single person in education with the coaching model, we would make so many lives easier.
Mm,
I think similarly to how when I was coaching widows or mentoring widows, I was taking it on and
mm,
I had that helper mindset. With the coaching model, that's great that you're a helper and how lovely that that's perhaps your personality, but you're not there to be that person. You're not there to save anybody. And the thing with a lot of teachers is they might go into teaching because they like to be the helper. How great would it be that a teacher can go into that profession knowing and acknowledging that, and also with the skills to not take on the weight of trying to save every student or trying to ensure that every single student's needs are met in a way that often, I'd almost say, breaks teachers because they want so badly, many teachers want so badly to give every student all that they can give. And it's just not possible, and it's also not their job.
Mm.
But without the coaching skills, you don't really know any other way.
So, what is it about the coaching skills? I mean, if you think about coaching skills, they're really communication skills, right? So, what what's the gap in a teacher's education, or that there's not that they aren't supported with training in these skills? We want to say they're coaching skills, and they are, but they're also connection skills. They're, a linguistic tool to support more powerful connection in communication. So where's the gap?
Um, Two places come to mind. Well, three. One is the transition of a teacher is typically they're a student, then they have their degree from university, and then whatever that undergraduate degree might be, and then they have their degree in education, and then they go right into the classroom. So the opportunity for experience in a profession outside of education, outside
Mm.
of a school, is really not there for the majority. I'd say the other one is when you do go through and do your Bachelor of Education. In my experience, when I graduated a couple decades ago, there was not a communications course, and I remember requesting it.
Mm.
Teachers are in charge of writing documents known as report cards or IEPs or IPRCs for children with varying needs, and we were not taught how to write them. And so you'll often find that report cards come home and you're having to read between the lines or ask a friend who is a teacher to interpret the report cards, or you just stop looking at them altogether because they're somewhat meaningless and coded in teacher talk. The other one would be coming from the school boards themselves. Uh, there is not the training in how to communicate with one another, how to communicate with your, for lack of better words, superiors, your bosses, and even peers. Talking with your peers, sometimes that's just not there. The ability to have a professional discussion, and yeah. So just in that, there are three ideas.
Well, it seems paradoxical because the teacher is tasked with communicating information and transfer of knowledge to little people, little humans.
Yeah.
um, so what is the goal then of the system if it's not communication?
Um, from my perspective at this point, the goal of education would be the curriculum, meaning your English or French or French, science, math, social studies, um, and then sprinkle in some arts should you have some time.
Hmm.
So that's about it.
What would you like to see the goal be?
Mm. I would love for the goal in education to be teaching kids about how to learn, how to be that active listener, how to listen to other people, how to engage with others, how to take some risks and explore. Of course, the fundamentals, reading, writing, math, but it's lacking so much. I can't even express that students' ability to listen to one another and to communicate is just not taught. And then as a teacher, you would get very frustrated. And how do you handle those emotions? In coaching, we learn about self regulation. Teachers are not taught that. And so you hear from your kids, oh, Miss so and so or Mr. So and so were yelling and or they threw something. And then how is a teacher then to disseminate to students the skills of self regulation when they themselves just don't know?
Yeah, it sounds like, and also, I mean, I just want to also um, point out what you mentioned earlier, which is that the student becomes a teacher with very little life experience in between. And that's a very limited point of view for a teacher to go into a classroom where they are tasked with getting little humans ready for the world.
Hmm.
And I I just so I have seen with my own eyes and experiences the impact of coaching in schools. We are doing wonderful work right now with an international school, but I've also done some great workshops. And what I know to be true is that these the children at elementary level are sponges. They have very few barriers to this kind of work, and especially if you make it playful and fun, they actually adapt to and jump into coaching skills and tools and principles faster than adults do, and like catch on quickly. And yet there's this huge missed opportunity, it feels like,
Hmm.
world of education. I know that for myself as a mother, my son had difficulty in school. I think I changed schools 9 times. Finally found the right one on the ninth try, and that was a traumatic experience for both of us.
Yeah.
And not to say that I didn't have incredible people along the way who tried to support and help. Um, but it was still very difficult to navigate. And, because what does every parent want? What do you want when your child goes to school?
You want them to be safe and happy.
Yeah, to feel like they belong,
Yeah.
right? And that belonging is different than fitting in.
Oh, wait.
Fitting in is manufactured, right? Fitting in is trying to put the round peg in a square hole. Make it fit.
Yeah.
Whereas belonging is being seen and accepted for who you are. And that is the principle of coaching,
Yeah.
right? It's to say you are okay as you are. And what else? Right? What else do you want? What's possible? What can you create? But this idea of acceptance versus um, this trying to fit in to a system that doesn't see you.
Mm.
So I believe I believe that every educator as a coach has an opportunity to reimagine classrooms, right? A classroom in which every child feels like they belong, even though they may not be at the same level and they may not have the same skills or the talents, but they are feeling like there's an opportunity to be a part of something. And I don't know a lot of kids who feel that way. I don't know. What was your experience?
Yeah. I remember when I was in the classroom striving for that and also feeling like it was just out of reach,
Mm,
usually because maybe then a behavior pops up, or oh, then there's a secure school, or there's administrative work that needs to be done. And so your focus shifts. And actually, I remember there was a parent volunteering in my class one day, and we were we had the students outside, we were exploring the trees, we were something like that. And I looked at her and I said, "You know what I really miss? I miss making eye contact with kids. I feel like I'm so busy looking down and maybe correcting something or tying someone's shoe and getting things done, doing, doing, doing. I wasn't being present in that
Mhm.
moment." And I remember just wanting that so, so much because it's not only great for the students, it's great for me as well. Gives me that moment of maybe I also belong. Maybe I am doing something okay in this situation. So, yeah, that's that's what comes to mind.
You know, I get this feeling as you're talking that um, educators are positioned as managers almost.
Yes.
And I keep thinking, like, all of the things that you need to do to sustain the system, and the very last thing that you get to pay attention to is the child in the system. And I don't know if that's true, but it sounds that way right now.
Oh, yeah.
And it's unfortunate, like, I know there's always budget is always the first objection when it comes to in Canada anyways, when it comes to training, public school training, professional development, um, and yet an assistant in your classroom to do the things that are what you're talking about, like the report card, the grading, the shoe tying, while you make connection with with clients, with your little clients. That wouldn't that be something, an experience to remember?
Yeah. Oh, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember actually you're reminding me of the workshop that we ran for grade 4 and 5 students in an elementary school here in Quebec. We had taken 5 weeks of once a week I would go in and run an hour and a half workshop with all the kids in all the grades, and they would come in groups of like 15 and 20. So it was a big thing. I was there all day running all these kids through. And I remember the teachers coming to pick up the kids when they were done, and not one of them asked. And they saw the excitement in the kids. They saw the energy, and they were almost standing taller. And not one of them said, "Well, what did you guys do? Like, what took place?" I don't know if they asked the kids in the classroom, and maybe that happened. But it struck me that I'm standing by the door and I'm saying bye to the kids, and not one person had asked, like, what just took place in this classroom? And I don't know. And I think it just comes down to time, because I know for certain that teachers are superheroes. I could not do that job. I know I couldn't do it. I mean, I do it with adults and I love it, but children are a whole other thing. And I know that it takes a certain amount of altruism and care and desire to be that for children, which is wonderful and phenomenal. And so I don't think the problem is the person taking the job. I think it's the job that doesn't support the person taking the job.
Mm, mhm.
Right? And that is where I want to, make a difference. And with the work that I've been doing in schools, I see that. And it doesn't take a year. It's 10 weeks. It's first of all, it's the first week. People come into a program like maybe you experienced in the life and wellness program, and right away you leave with a thought that is a game changer for the next conversation you have.
Yeah.
Whether it's to listen more deeply, ask an open-ended question instead of a closed,
Mhm.
be more present to somebody, whatever that little nugget is for you, it makes a difference right away. I know, because people tell me all the time after week 1 and 2 of a program, I'm already seeing the difference. People are noticing.
Yeah.
And it's powerful. So these are this is such an opportunity. It really is. It's such an opportunity. So I'm so happy to hear you say that you're focused on educators. So tell me a little bit more about what you envision for your practice. What was it called again? You said
Onwards
Forward by
by design.
Onward by Design.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do I envision? Well, doing all of that wonderful stuff. It would be so phenomenal, right? If we could get those skills into perhaps professional development days
Mm.
or into the universities where the students are coming out with their Bachelor of Education.
Yeah.
Um, I would love also to see the parents learn these skills.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that through the students, they could impart that.
Mhm.
And the leadership, the leadership, the leadership, the leadership. I think when they experience firsthand the value and how it changes their life for the better, and they won't hesitate so much. They will make room for it in the budget. And, that's something that has come up quite a bit. And I know I'm skirting the question of what does onwards by design look like. And I just also want to touch on this budget factor because it is so prevalent and is always used as a crutch for why things are not better. So, what is getting in the way? What is stopping those in charge of the budgets from making this a priority and implementing it when we know that it has done such great things with corporations, even in governments at all various levels? It is helping people excel. And so, what's getting in the way? What's stopping? Well, I would like to think that one of the school boards in Ontario might be making a change or a shift and are reframing how they approach um, staff wellness, how they approach student success in terms of their well being as well, and also reaching out to parents. And what it's taken is for this particular school board to be under investigation and for the Minister of Education in Ontario to assign a supervisor, a special supervisor, to come and have a very close look, not just audit financially, not just financially audit the school board, but investigate why the public has lost confidence in a school board that 20, 25 years ago was revered across the world and had teachers from all around the world come and observe teachers in the classroom. And it just doesn't happen anymore.
Mm.
That is exciting. And I'd like to hear more about that. And so I'll be reaching out to that supervisor. So, Onwards by Design might be doing something like that. Onwards
Mhm.
by Design can be working one on one with teachers that are stuck or just know they've lost their passion. There's something better, or they remember how they felt when they first started teaching and they want that back. This is a profession that I had a friend just tell me last week. She said, Bonnie, it's the golden handcuffs. Yes, teachers are paid well in Ontario. Great benefits, great pension, and that is rarely ever the reason that they might go on strike. The reason they go on strike is, oh, they're getting bruised and beaten up in class by students and there's nobody there to help. There are no repercussions, no consequences, and the there aren't the resources in both human resources and physically. I remember when I was in the classroom, the last time I was in the classroom, I definitely spent close to $1,000 of my money just buying pencils, glue. Forget about buying paper, colored paper, any of that, 'cause that's you get limited, and the books, just these things that we take for granted. No, those are actually that's coming from the teacher. Very little of it comes from the school. So,
What's that about? What's the funding? Where's the block in funding?
right? Where'd the money go? Yeah, right? I would buy the Band-Aids for my class. All those little things because the school only has so much money, then that's it. I don't know where it goes. And It's
Would you say that's still true today? Because you're talking about how long ago when you were in the classroom.
2018. Oh, yeah, I
Okay.
would say it's even worse now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I think I told you in our first take of this podcast that I had an idea, just because the children are the leaders of tomorrow, that I would want to approach local companies around the school area to sponsor a child in, or a classroom or a school. I mean, some companies have lots of discretionary budget to do so, to go through these programs, and maybe even offer supplies. I don't know. What if the big corps of, that and schools are the feeding systems for these corporations in the end, right?
Mhm.
What if they took some responsibility in supporting the school system? Wouldn't that be interesting? I don't
That
know.
would be so interesting. I I often wonder, what would it be like in a school, in a public system, when it was properly funded? What is possible?
Mm,
And instead, I I quite honestly, my son is going to a private school because being in a classroom with 34, 36 other students where 60, 70% of those students are very dysregulated. For somebody like my son who's quiet, he falls right through the cracks and has lost
mm, mhm,
years in his education. And I, as a teacher, see it. But if I
mhm.
were a parent that didn't have the background in education like I do, I would think, oh, well, he's a B student. That's fine. He can just carry on. But I know better. And so I have to do better. It's part of who I am. And by doing that, that means he's going to go to a classroom with 15 kids with support, with gym every day,
Yeah,
with actual science, with real music, not just clapping your hands as your music class.
yeah.
And could you imagine if every child had that opportunity, not just these privileged few, or for those of us who just try to like squeeze out every penny and make this the priority? Because we were at a point where if he doesn't get this foundational education now, post-secondary is not even an option. It was either I intervene now or that's it.
Yeah, both of my children ended up in private school. With my son, it was one um, pivot after another, I'll say. And with my daughter, it was COVID. When that happened, she was in grade 10 already. I think she was starting grade 10. And I saw just the impact and also the teachers suffering. And I knew that her education would be at stake because of how she was adapting to the situation, and also the system, the school was just suffering. So I ended up putting her in a class of like 12 kids, all girls. And she thrived. Like, it was the best decision I could have ever made for her. Ever made. And I couldn't even afford it at the time, but I did it anyway because I was like, this has to be the way forward for my peace of mind too. I was building a business. It was early stages. I needed to focus, and I couldn't do that worrying about my kids all day. Like, parents are deeply invested in their children, their emotional well-being, like, I that was really what drove me with my son and my daughter. It was both of those cases. It was about, I want to know that I'm dropping them off at a place that they feel safe and belonging,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I can very much relate to that. My daughter went through 3 schools, and it is that sense of belonging, And also me, it was very traumatic on me as well. Pulling up to a school to drop your child off to a place where you know that things are not going well and they are suffering, I would drive away and just be in tears. And how do I then go to work?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get a phone call from the school. And then if I were at work, I'd have to leave work, which just wasn't an option if I were a teacher. And when we finally found the right school, I remember a therapist telling me, Bonnie, when you see that she's doing okay and when you start breathing again, this might be really hard because you're going to start dealing with the trauma of that whole experience.
Yeah.
And likewise, her as well. When you've been in a situation that is, for lack of better words, abusive, you go somewhere where it's not, where it's where you belong, where people are making eye contact and genuinely care. You're always waiting, like, oh, when's the next hit going to come? Or when's the next comment? Or what's the next thing that I need to protect myself from? And when you don't feel safe and when your kids don't feel safe, you're not functioning.
Mm-hmm.
It is not good. And there's no learning happening when you don't feel safe.
No, I mean, it's just, you're saying it, and all I hear is that the school is the nucleus of the community, of the family, of how we are a society.
Yeah.
If our kids are not okay, we're not okay, right? So this idea of investing in supporting the people who are at the heads of these classrooms, and also what you mentioned about the leaders in education. The school, the international school that I'm working with, they started with the top leadership. Buy-in from there to trickle down has been, I think, a game changer for them. It was a very, very good decision that we supported because I know it's the same thing in organizations. If you start at the middle, you're going to lose it. The work you're doing is going to be drowned out by the dominant culture that already exists.
Yeah.
Who's in charge of the dominant culture? It's the top,
Mhm.
right? So this idea of starting at the top and trickling down is so important to change and to maintaining and sustaining that change. So I absolutely agree with you. And we know through the studies that coaching teachers helps them improve self-regulation, helps them improve their well-being. Well-being increases, and therefore the impact on the classroom is that well-being increases, and therefore academic performance increases, and all the things go up,
Yeah.
right? So imagine if that's the impact when a teacher's coached. Imagine if a teacher could learn the skills of a coach.
Mhm.
That's where I think the biggest opportunity is for that change that we're both talking about, and
Mhm.
equipping them in their teachers colleges, or when somebody's doing a BA in education,
Mhm.
there is a mandatory, call it communication, call it coaching, whatever you want to call it, class that they all must take. And it's not just about communication skills, it's about self-regulation.
Yeah.
It's about increasing our awareness of our emotional landscapes. It's about social and emotional intelligence, right? It's this idea of modeling, right, for the children in the classroom, what that looks like.
Mhm.
Because we all know with studies that have shown social behavior, like how we learn from social behavior. And Bandura's study on the baubles in the gym, where the children were observing, I don't know if it was kids or parents, I can't remember, being mean with these bauble toys that were bouncing back and forth in gyms. And then in another gym, they were being kind, and how children model that behavior just by witnessing it.
Mhm.
Modeling has been proven in psychology in many different grounded research, empirical research initiatives. So there's something there for sure. I don't know. What is it going to take? What's it going to take, Bonnie?
Right? So,
We're here to solve the world's problems.
oh, yes. Well, I'm on board with you there. What does it take? I would like to thank perhaps ministers of education, maybe even premiers or prime
Mm,
minister saying, hey,
mhm,
education is a priority. And
mm,
why is it failing? Why are the public systems across the country not, they're not doing well? There are a few
mhm,
school boards who are really trying. These are also, I've come to know, these are school boards with special funding for various reasons. And the way that they can allocate those funds is interesting. But the priority, I think you're right, is this is across Canada, perhaps across the world. Why is education not revered as something crucial? That, like, why is it being addressed like a daycare? And we have super intelligent parents who have all sorts of careers, who have kids in the public system and who are scratching their heads and just like, why is this happening at school? And why is that happening at school? We need these parents to also step up and ask for this shift in priority. I'm perhaps at the highest level possible.
mm.
Solve the world's problems.
Right.
You know,
Well,
just
and we know
ending the
that,
string here.
well, the world's problems, get solved, I believe, one conversation at a time. And so if you were to have a conversation with an educator right now,
Mhm.
what would you want them to know about coaching and the possibilities that it would bring to supporting their role?
Mhm. Funny as you say that, and I feel this sense of ease, and I just feel all the tension come out of my shoulders, and I feel immediately this smile across my face, and it's that would be the physical representation of what I think coaching does for teachers is it gives you this, "Ah, I can be a teacher now. I can do
Mhm.
what
Yeah.
I dreamed of doing.
Mm,
I don't have to be all these other things to these
mhm,
kids in front of me. And it's okay if I take one thing and we have that one conversation with a student. It's okay to just listen. It's okay to be and not talk, 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 talk. That 80-20, 80% listening, 20% talking should also be applied with the teachers, especially with little kids. It's not a lecture. It's observe and adjust and impart small parcels of knowledge. You have to teach them how to read somehow or whatever it might be. Give them the little chunks, let them explore. And um, I think what it would do for a teacher's life is also in their personal life. Teachers
mm.
carry the weight of their
Yeah.
shortcomings, of how they didn't get to student XYZ that day, or how are they going to do that, or what do they do about this behavior or that. They're thinking about it when they're making their kids' lunches. They're thinking about it on the drive home. And they're thinking about it when they're trying to fall asleep as soon as they wake up. And with the coaching skills, I think they would really learn to let it go.
Yeah, it's really sorry, I just somehow lost your camera. Oh, there you go. Okay. Um, it I it's one yeah, it's one little shift at a time. And I agree that, the children need to learn first and foremost as well. And it's just this shift to inquiry-led education, is something that I feel would be hugely impactful, especially now in today's time where AI is now going to be a companion to students to learners. And that companion is basically going to rob them of critical thinking.
Mhm.
And therefore, inquiry led education is going to be that much more important for our kids to not lose the capacity for critical thinking.
Mhm.
Like we've lost, I mean, I don't know about you, I'll speak to me. I don't know anybody's phone number anymore.
Yeah.
They're, all in my phone. And if I lose my phone and I'm stranded on the highway, I'm going to stay there a very long time because I don't remember anybody's phone number. In fact, a friend of mine just said, write at least 3 numbers on a piece of paper, put it in your purse. I'm like, oh, of course. That's such a great idea. Or GPS, do I know how to get to most places without it? No, I don't. I rely on it heavily.
Mhm.
And that's what will happen with AI, right? We will rely on it heavily to do the investigative thinking that we otherwise would do on our own. Even using Google, you still have to be strategic and critical thinking. This is a whole other level. So I see that being critical, and maybe that's what will force a change in the classrooms. Who knows, but I love the idea that you bring, which is to exhale. It's so interesting that you said that, because we just ran a study for a marketing piece that we're doing within our community. And what we recognize is that when people come to Coach Academy after doing a search online for all the different academies, and maybe you can attest to this, and looking at all the different ways that you can get certified as a coach, and then they finally land on one of our admissions coaches who is super clear and, coach like in their approach, and not a big like sales job. It's really like connecting
Mhm.
and understanding. They actually express this feeling of, oh, I can exhale now. I found the right school. I don't have to keep looking. I don't have to keep searching. I don't have to keep reading all this information that I don't understand. That they can now give someone the confidence, their confidence and their trust, that they can just kind of sit back and say, like, I can teach now. Well, I can be a student now. And that's the feeling. It's exhaling, that like letting go of the stress and the anxiety and the responsibility of choosing
Mhm.
something.
Oh, yeah.
When you finally find the place that you feel like you belong, is that feeling of exhaling, which is interesting that you said that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that is how I felt actually when I came across, your site. And then after I spoke with someone, I was like, "Oh, I think I belong here.
Mm,
This feels
mm,
right." And I've
mm,
called and spoken with many other places. So, and when you say that, I find that really interesting. We know when something doesn't feel quite right. We know when something is off. And so I wonder if that idea is somewhat mirrored in the education system, and we're as coaches trying to figure out, how do we get this in? We know something's off, but we can't quite put our finger on how we get in there. How do we, and what, like, just all these questions that come up, and it's frustrating. And we don't feel like, I don't quite feel like I belong there. I feel like, okay, if I go back into the classroom, I'm going to be in my isolated classroom. It'll be me and 20 some little kids. And how lovely. I'm just going to run my own little world. And hopefully, I will have great colleagues, and hopefully, I will have great leadership, that I feel a sense of belonging. But really, teaching is very isolating. You're the adult with all these other kids. And being able to exhale, when you're looking even at your own kids and just, oh, I did well. Or wow, look at them go. Wow, look what they just did. That's incredible. You can take that moment to really appreciate being present.
mhm, mhm.
What a gift.
Yeah, yeah, it is such a gift. And you're talking a lot about feeling, and I think what we're trying to do is solve the issues that we see in the school system with logic and reasoning, when really it's about, how do people feel? And we just did an exercise, actually, another marketing exercise, where we went through stages of our onboarding process, from admissions to entering the classroom. And I challenged my team to approach this from a feeling perspective and not a what are we doing at each stage. I want to start with feeling. What is the person feeling when they first see us? And then what are they feeling when they get on the phone with you? And what are they feeling when they emailing? And it's the feelings that we went after. And what that did was it really brought us down to what's most important. When logic would have distracted us from trying, like you said, all those how questions, how do we do this? And how do we do that? That's overwhelming.
Yes.
And truly, I like to say it's a fail fast experience, experiment really, which is, try something, it fails, pivot, try another thing. It may succeed or fail, and then try again. So this idea of knowing what the right answer is less important than looking at what's the impact? What's the feeling we want people to have in the classroom? What's the feeling the parent wants to have when they drop off their child, or when they come in to see the teacher in an interview, or, they're reading the report card? What feeling does the child, I don't look at the grades. In fact, I just realized this, and I didn't think of this before. I never looked at my kids' grades. I looked at the comments the teacher made first.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave me a perspective on, okay, now what's this grade?
Mm-hmm.
And that is interesting. I never really thought about that. So what's that tell you? I mean, for me, I think that means I'm looking for a place to connect. Because a number doesn't tell me anything. It's just an evaluation. But what did you say? What did you see about my child? How did you experience my child in the classroom? That's an opportunity for connection, right?
Very much. Oh, yeah. As you say that, I was also thinking about teachers around the world become teachers for all sorts of reasons. When I worked in the Middle East, I worked with some incredible teachers who I came to learn that to become a teacher where they were from, they just finish that degree. So if you're going to be a math teacher, you just do your degree in math and or science or whatever it is. You don't go to teachers
Okay.
college.
Oh, wow.
And so you don't really learn about how to teach and or even address feelings of any kind or just cognitive development. It's literally the subject matter. That's what you're doing. And here I do find maybe that's where one of the big struggles is that we are big into the feelings, but we don't know what to do with them or how to address them or how to hear, how to listen, how to see them. And when we're already having trouble regulating ourselves and our only point of reference for communicating is our own childhood and our own upbringing, our own school experience, that is a very flawed scenario. And yeah, I do find that that's really interesting.
Well, Mark Brackett, I don't know if you know Mark Brackett. He's the, I believe he's the founder of the Center of Emotional Intelligence for Yale. He's written many books, one of them being Permission to Feel, which is an incredible resource. And he has what you're talking about, like how do we regulate? He has a process called Ruler. I mean, and we have our processes in our coach certification, right? We talk about emotional regulation all the time. But I really love his process, which is very similar to actually Tara Brach's RAIN, RAIN. And Ruler is all about recognizing, understanding, labeling the emotion, and working with it, right? Same with RAIN. It's actually recognize, acknowledge, investigate, and then unattach, or non-attachment. N is non-attachment. Meaning, take it out and put it in front of you. Now what do you see? Because we identify so much with our feelings, but when we can separate them and look at them. So that right there is a huge opportunity for just that one process, that one step by step. Oh, there's a child having an emotional breakdown, or, oh, I'm about to have an emotional breakdown.
Yeah.
What do I need to do? Pause, breathe, recognize this is what I'm feeling. understand, self-compassion,
Yeah.
right? And then this investigate what's really going on for me. And then this, okay, if I put the feeling in front of me, what do I see? This non-attachment. Giving people the skills and the tools to do that in a moment they need it. I think that's the gift.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's why coaching works so well to bring in well-being to the classroom, because teachers have an outlet through the coach to do that work. And a skilled coach will create the space and the exploration and curiosity to do that work with with the teacher. And they will start to feel more regulated emotionally when they leave, and when they continue this coaching, they have an outlet, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, teachers feel isolated.
Yes.
Leaders in general feel isolated. Imagine, teachers who are put in classrooms with little people, and they have, and I have to say, this international school that we're working at, one of the brilliant things they did before we even met them was to assign teachers peer coaching opportunity. They called it peer coaching.
Mhm.
They didn't have the skills to coach. So what ended up happening was it became peer evaluation
Oh,
and peer assessment. But it's okay, because that was the first step to bringing that support, and like across classrooms, and having an initiative that was purposeful to do so. And then bringing coaching skills in, they realized, oh, and we just need to tweak how we're delivering observations and feedback, so that the person being, coached doesn't feel evaluated. They feel supported instead.
yeah.
So, and that's how we learn, right? But it was a great initiative for them to start with. And that to me tells me that, coaching is certainly a skill that is learned, and it is skillful. It is a competency. It's not just a title, and it really needs training.
Mhm.
It needs some understanding of what makes this a coaching space versus a mentoring space
Yes.
or a teaching space, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was so articulate. That was very well said. I couldn't say it better myself. Yeah.
And I could go on and on and on, and I'm noticing the time. So I really want to know, what, if anything, has shifted for you from the beginning of our conversation to now?
A bit more hope.
Mm. Oh, that's great.
Mhm. Yeah. I think I I wish so very much for public education to be the way of education for everyone. I really, really wish that I wasn't spending all this money on private
Yeah.
education. I really wish that I didn't have to change schools so many times with my kids. And the hope that that leadership, people in positions where they can make these top-down decisions, and people like me who are just curious about bettering themselves or about coaching, those who wonder what else is possible. And those who say, "No, this can't be it. There's something else here." They just have that little inkling of, something doesn't feel quite right." That brings me hope.
Mm. Yeah, that's so good. And if you had one question for the universe that you wanted answered, what would that be?
Mm. Why is education not a top priority for communities, for countries? Why is it that that's where budgets are slashed, and why is it seen the way it is? Why is it not revered as critical, crucial, and a place for nurturing, and exploring curiosity, growth, development? Why is it seen as this dumping ground? Yeah.
Mm. Well, and being the coach that I am, and because this is called the What Not Why podcast, I need to hear you shift that into a what question.
Thank you. Thank you. What else is possible with our kids? What else is possible with education and
Mm.
parenting and community? What else is possible with how we perceive our time in school?
Mm.
and what else
And
is possible with our priorities in learning.
yeah, yeah. The what else question is so good.
Yeah.
It helps to probe, right? Well, thank you so much. This has been just a wonderful conversation, and you're a wonderful second time around guest.
Thank
I'm
you.
happy we got to do this again.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you
and is
so much
there
for having me
something
back.
Oh, my pleasure. And is there, a place that people can find you with your company and the work you're doing?
Yes, you can Google Bonnie Mickle, Mickle, or you can look up onwardsbydesign.com as well.
Okay,
And yeah, you can contact me through my website or you can email me, Bonnie at onwardsbydesign.com. And
okay.
I'll very happily get back to you and would love to hear from people who are just as passionate as we are about getting this shift going.
Mm. Yeah, I think you're doing incredible work in the world, and your focus is just beautiful and good for humanity. So I wish you all the best,
Thank you.
and I look forward to staying connected.
Yay!
Thank
Fantastic.
you.
Thank you so much.